Today's topic, how gun control endangers the lives of law-abiding Americans. The right to self-defense is a natural human right, like thought and speech. Americans simply cannot enjoy life, liberty, and pursue happiness without the right to repel those who would harm us. From the left's perspective, the fewer guns there are, the safer communities will be. But this flawed logic and the gun control hysteria is exactly what allows lawbreakers to thrive when confronting unarmed, soft targets. Nothing better exemplifies this than the existence of so-called gun-free zones. A gun-free zone is intended to reduce violence and accidental shootings by completely banning the use of firearms by responsible, law-abiding gun owners, leaving them vulnerable to criminals who couldn't care less about obeying the law and are ready to attack. One Tennessee woman who knows the consequences of all this too well will be with us today on Liberty File. She joins us to share her powerful personal story on how she was left defenseless and disarmed by an ill-conceived law, the writers of which claimed was enacted to save her. Let's get started. Joining me now to discuss all this is Nikki Goser, Executive Director of the Crime Prevention Research Center and author of the new and tearjerker book, Stalked and Defenseless: How Gun Control Helped My Stalker Murder My Husband in Front of Me. Nikki, thanks for joining us. Well, the title of the book says it all, but I want you to tell us in a few words what happened.
My husband, Benjamin, was murdered right in front of me by a man who was stalking me. And this left my permitted firearm that I normally carried for self-defense locked in my vehicle that night.
So this was in Tennessee,
yes,
where you have the right to own and the right to carry, but the law prohibited, tell me if I have this correctly, carrying in a place where alcohol is sold.
Correct. This restaurant, they serve full meals,
Right.
but they also happen to serve alcohol.
Even if you don't drink, you can't carry a gun into this restaurant.
Correct.
And that's not the restaurant's choice. That, we know the law, thanks be to God, has changed. That was the legislature's choice in Tennessee, of all places.
Yes, at the time.
So this guy had been stalking you. You were aware of it. You carried your gun for your own protection. Your husband was aware of it.
Actually, I did not realize that he was stalking me until that night.
Wow.
I asked management to please have him removed. I said, this man is stalking me. I'm very concerned. I don't feel comfortable. Please help me. And when they confronted him to ask him to leave, he pulled a .45 and shot my husband 7 times in front of myself and everyone in the middle of a busy restaurant. And I will probably wonder for the rest of my life if I could have prevented that. Of course, I'll never know.
Are you qualified? Are you trained in the use of your handgun?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, and where it is lawful in Tennessee, we're talking about the time before they changed the law, you were able to carry it in the comfort and security of knowing no monster is going to shoot you or anybody with you. Well, what happened? I mean, this guy has been convicted of murder and sentenced to a jail term. He's going to regrettably be out in 8 years or so, but he was convicted.
Correct. Unfortunately, the judge dropped it from first-degree premeditated murder to second-degree. It was a bench trial.
Right.
And the evidence...
Which reduced the maximum sentence considerably.
Oh, yes, but the evidence was absolutely just... It was just incredible evidence that proved premeditation.
That he planned and plotted this. This wasn't something that he did on the spur of the moment because the restaurant wanted to throw him out.
Right.
What did the legislature do after all this happened?
They changed the law. So now, as long as you have your handgun carry permit, and as long as you are not drinking any alcohol, you can now carry in restaurants that also serve alcohol. Now, they're still allowed to post a no guns allowed sign if the restaurant owner wants to.
That's the landowner's choice.
Correct. It's no longer
the land occupier, the restaurant management's choice.
Correct.
Which is another right because it's private property. But what did these probably well-meaning conservative Republican, because we're talking about Tennessee, legislators think would happen when they enacted a gun-free zone? I mean, to you and me, even if this tragedy hadn't occurred, a gun-free zone is a killing zone. It's the most dangerous place on earth because only the bad people have guns.
Absolutely. I think it actually encourages evil people to attack. I mean, if you're an evil person, where are you going to go to harm innocent people? I mean, we see so many of these attacks across the United States, and the media fails to tell the public this happened in a gun-free zone where everyone there was helpless. People assume bad guys are stupid. They're not stupid.
Right. Helpless because they obeyed the law. Bad guys triumphant because they disobeyed the law. Does the legislature really think someone intent on murder would obey a gun law? Absolutely not.
It's crazy.
Wow, do you carry the gun in Tennessee now?
Oh, absolutely. I carry the gun everywhere I can.
And how frequently do you qualify?
Oh, I just got back from Front Sight. It's a training academy in Nevada. I took a 4-day defensive handgun course. So I think that a lot of people that are gun owners and carry every day, I think they care about training and they go get additional training. I know I certainly do.
So for many years, there was a bizarre Supreme Court opinion called Miller, which was ambiguous, but legislatures and the Congress used language from it to suggest that the right to keep and bear arms was not a personal individual right. It belonged to the states, it belonged to a militia. There was all kinds of mishmash arguments. The late, great Justice Scalia, in a case called District of Columbia versus Heller, set it straight that the right to keep and bear arms in the home and around the home is a pre-political personal right. Pre-political meaning comes from before the Constitution. Pre-political is another word for a natural right. It's an extension of your right to self-defense. That's not recognized everywhere.
Unfortunately, it's not.
It is recognized in Tennessee.
Yes.
Now, I live in New Jersey, where I don't live in Jersey City, but in Jersey City, there was a horrific tragedy earlier this week.
Yeah.
It wasn't legally a gun-free zone, but it might as well have been a gun-free zone permit. And those monsters that invaded the kosher supermarket, it was like shooting fish in a barrel. They knew with certainty that nobody in there would shoot back. So what's going to happen in New Jersey? Probably more gun restrictions, because the progressives that run the state think that they can take care of us better than we can take care of ourselves, even in the face of slaughter. Was there much resistance in Tennessee to changing the gun-free zone law? Or did your case make it, your husband's death, make it clear and obvious that it had to be changed?
Well, there are always going to be people that don't believe in the basic human right of self-defense.
Right. And they get their voices heard in the legislature as well.
They get their voices heard in the media mostly.
Right.
It's conservatives and people that appreciate freedom and liberty. Oftentimes our voices are silenced.
Before we go, tell us a little bit about the organization of which you are executive director.
Sure. I work for the Crime Prevention Research Center.
Right.
We're a nonprofit organization, and we study gun laws, changes in gun laws across the nation, and how they impact crime and murder rates.
Now, there's a person who runs that, who I think might be your boss, who's the foremost intellectual scholar on guns in the world, and who has written a dynamite book called More Guns Equals Less Crime. His name is John Lott, and you help get that message out.
Yes.
You and John get that message out.
Absolutely.
I hope you never have to go through this again, and I hope that as a result of this tragedy, more legislators and city officials will see the light that the legislature in Tennessee saw. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay. Pleasure.